Good evening. Today is the 30th of May, and we are still in the MCO. In the last session, we were talking about the state of the human being, that the human being has the body, the mind, and the soul, and that the human being is the creation of the Creator. That the human being started from the state of nothingness to a state of existence, and you will go on to go into another state of non-existence again. Now, let us go deeper into the human being. We say that the human being has a body, it has a mind, and it has a soul. And because of these three components, it has the ability to think, to do, and to feel. These are the three basic ability of the human being that every one of us, as long as we are alive, we are able to do things, we are able to think, and we are able to feel. This is because of this is the outcome of us having these three components: body, mind, and soul. Now, from these three, we have the thinking capacity, we have the emotional capacity, and we have the spiritual capacity. These three. Now, in terms of human development, we refer to IQ, EQ, and SQ. These are the three components of human excellence. Which always, that when you talk about human excellence, we refer to these three elements of excellence: IQ, EQ, and SQ. Now let's go further and say, what do we mean by the thinking capacity in a human being? I said in the last session that the human being is created to be the most perfect creation of all the Almighty. It has the most advanced capacity, advanced ability to develop and to be critical to the highest level. So the human capacity to think is really unlimited. Then its only guidance is honesty and discipline in any field of knowledge. And obviously, there has got to be discipline, and there's got to be following a rule of academic discipline. So, in logic, in thinking, there is a criteria that say, how do you know what you know? Where is your source of knowledge? How do you know what you know? To see whether or not the source of your knowledge is valid, whether or not what you're thinking is based on fundamentals, based on facts, and not based on myth, and not based on perceptions. So the analytical mind would examine whether or not what we know has factual reality, because there are basically two types of reality. First, you have what we call as the reality that is based on the human logic. Like, for instance, when we say what goes up must come down, this is a reality. What goes up must come down, the theory of relativity. But there are cases whereby what goes up never come down. It went up and it never come down. For instance, in Jerusalem, you have got the Dome of the Rock. The rock went up and it never came down. It's still hanging until today. So there is a power that's beyond logic. There is a power beyond logic. So what goes up may not come down. If it is real not to come down, like for instance the satellites that's up in the space, it did not come down. It's not coming down because there is no gravity that brought it down. So if there's a power beyond, then the logic of what goes up must come down does not apply. So the other is the emotional capacity, emotional component. I will never forget the fact that we have people who look after wild animals as babies, for instance. They look after lions as babies. They look after cheetahs as babies. And then when these lions grow and they're sent to zoo, and they don't see these people after maybe 10 years, but when they meet, this lion recognize their former caregiver. There is a bond between them. There is a bond between them that is beyond logic. That's beyond logic. This emotional attachment, like you see, for instance, a cat being looked after by somebody, and you find that when that somebody dies, there is still an attachment. You have cases where the cat goes to the grave and stays at the grave and does not want to go away. So there is this emotional attachment, like the attachment of the mother and the child. It is beyond logic. It is beyond comprehension of the mind. So it is emotional intelligence. Then the last one would be the spiritual intelligence, the ability to, because the human being, because we have the soul, and when we have the soul, it means that we have the ability to develop the soul. We have the ability to develop the soul. So you have cases again, people being able to speak to animals. You have monks, for instance, being able to tame horses by speaking to them at a different level. But a more significant example of spiritual language or spiritual ability is something which is more mundane than that. Now, if you notice that all of us, irrespective of our belief system, would feel calm, would feel calm and entertained when we hear the sound of birds, when we hear the sound of the wave, when we hear the sound of rain, when you hear the movement of the leaves being blown by the wind, when we walk into the forest, there is a calmness that is basically, you can understand. Why is it that when we hear the birds, whether or not we are Christians, Buddhists, whatever, when we hear the birds, we feel a kind of calmness, a kind of soothing effect. Like even if you look at the YouTube, there's a lot of put you to sleep bird sounds of water. What is this? What is this that the birds, the sounds of the bird, the sound of the water, the sound of the leaf, that calm us down? Why? Why is it? My understanding is that because birds, water, leaf, wind, rain, these are all creations. All these are creations created by the Almighty. And by the nature of all creation knows its creator. By nature, all creation knows its creator. And all creation is remembrance of the creator. It's because the sounds that you're hearing is remembrance. Is remembrance. And that remembrance is understood by our soul. And that our soul understands this language. Our soul is calm by this language. Simply because our soul too knows that we are going to go back. So this remembrance will always calm us down. This is why when I was in Salzburg, in the crossing the bridge where Mozart lived on a winter night, and the wind was very strong, and the waves, I could understand where Mozart got his inspiration for a lot of his fantastic work. It was the wind. Why is it the sounds of Mozart is soothing? It's because he captures the natural sounds of the nature. So I'm going to try and conclude here in that the human nature, with these three capacity, the capacity of the mind, the capacity of the heart, the capacity of the soul. These three capacities is innate in a human being, and this capacity has a fantastic ability. It can even achieve very high level of intelligence, maturity, and ability. But if these facilities are not in balance, meaning, for instance, if one is to develop only the mental capacity and not develop the physical ability, and don't develop the spiritual ability, then he becomes a monster. He becomes somebody who reacts only on the basis of his animalistic desire. Whereas if somebody just become, emotionally very talented, very, very deep, then that person will be just in a world of his own, without the ability to be with society, without the ability for spirituality. And if somebody is just to develop on spirituality, he will be a monk living in the cave with not much use for humanity. So humanity, like the balanced humanity, would mean that the three elements of body, mind, and soul, thinking, doing, and feeling, must be developed in a balance. And when it is developed in the balance, man becomes a beneficial creation on earth for humanity and for the universe. We end there, and we hope to see you in another session. Thank you.